Let me ask you something you probably haven't asked yourself in a while. When was the last time you checked your emotional bank account? No, not your bank account, your emotional bank account. That invisible reservoir inside you that holds everything you give to others, your patience, your empathy, your forgiveness, your attention. Because I know you've been giving withdrawals, constantly, to the friend who only calls with their problems, to the partner who takes your consistency for granted, to the family member who expects you to always adjust your plans, to the colleague who dumps their emotional work on your desk. You give and give and give, and you tell yourself this is what good people do. This is what love requires. This is what being available means. But here's the terrifying truth no one tells you. Your unlimited availability has made you invisible. And there are ancient voices, psychologists and philosophers who understood the human soul better than any Instagram influencer, who have been screaming this warning for centuries. They knew something we've forgotten. There is a sacred mathematics to human connection, and right now your equation is bankrupting you. Carl Jung, the founder of analytical psychology, wrote something that should shake us to our core. He said, "The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of its parents." But we've created a generation carrying a different burden, the unlived life of ourselves. Because you're living everyone else's emotional reality, you're so available to others that you've become unavailable to yourself. This isn't just feeling tired. This is a specific kind of soul exhaustion that the Stoic philosopher Seneca identified 2,000 years ago when he wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Think about that. Whose imagination are you living in? Whose anxieties are you carrying? Whose emotional emergencies have you made your priority? The contemporary Jungian analyst James Hollis puts it even more bluntly in his book, Finding Meaning in the Second Half of Life. We are here to be inconvenient, to be ourselves, to stand in our own truth, regardless of its impact on others. Let that sink in. We are here to be inconvenient, not to be constantly available, not to be endlessly accommodating, not to be the emotional convenience store that's always open, always stocked with whatever others need. When you become too available, you commit a subtle violence against yourself. You erase your boundaries until you're just an outline of a person, a shape others can fill with whatever they need you to be. And the most painful part? The people who take advantage of your availability don't even see you anymore. They see what you provide. They see the function you serve. You've become an emotional utility, and utilities don't get loved, they get used. Jung had a term for what's being drained from you. He called it psychic energy. Not your time, not your effort. Your psychic energy, the very substance of your attention, your will, your creative life force. In his collected works, Jung explains that we each have a finite amount of this energy. And here's what we misunderstand. Every relationship has a psychic economy. There are exchanges, sometimes equal, sometimes not. When you're over-available, you're running a permanent deficit. You're giving emotional loans that never get repaid. You're investing in bonds that yield no return for your soul. The 20th century psychoanalyst Alice Miller, in her devastating book, The Drama of the Gifted Child, writes about what happens to people who learn too young to be attuned to others' needs. They know everything about others and nothing about themselves. Look at your life. How many people's emotional weather reports do you check before deciding your own emotional wardrobe for the day? But what if I told you there's a way to reclaim this energy? What if the very relationships that drain you could become sources of genuine connection? What if your problem isn't that you care too much, but that you haven't applied the right psychological principles to how you care? We're going to rebuild your emotional economy from the ground up. We're going to explore, first, the boundary paradox, why firm boundaries actually create more intimacy, not less. drawing from the relationship research of Dr. John Gottman and the existential psychology of Irvin Yalom. The attention audit, how to track exactly where your psychic energy is leaking, using principles from modern psychology and the ancient Stoic practice of attention management. The architecture of reciprocity, how to build relationships with built-in balance, inspired by the philosopher Martin Buber's concept of I-thou relationships and attachment theory. This isn't about becoming cold, selfish, or closed off. This is about becoming consciously unavailable so you can be authentically available where it matters. You are about to learn how to transform from someone who is used into someone who is chosen, from someone who is taken from into someone who is met. The German poet Rainer Maria Rilke, in his Letters to a Young Poet, gave us the destination we're moving toward. The point of marriage is not to create a quick commonality by tearing down all boundaries. On the contrary, a good marriage is one in which each partner appoints the other to be the guardian of his solitude. Guardians of each other's solitude, not invaders of each other's privacy, not consumers of each other's energy. Your journey to becoming that guardian, for others, but first for yourself, begins now.